Week 11 was a tough week in fantasy football all across the board. But for us, we at least had one defensive streamer, 25% owned or less, finish inside the top eight. The Miami Dolphins finished fifth on the week with 9 points. That brings us to 8 out of 11 weeks where one of our defenses, 25% owned or less, finished inside the top eight. And, we had some issues with the other defenses, not going to lie. The San Francisco 49ers finished 11th on the week with 6 points. Falcons finished 16th on the week with just 4 points. Falcons have been kind of this weird defense where, you just don't know what you're going to get on a week by week basis. I do want to make sure there's a note that I am dropping tomorrow my playoff stashes video. I know I've got a lot of questions about it. It is ready to drop for tomorrow, so keep an eye on that. Let's go ahead and look at our defensive streamers for this week. My number one streamer on the week is the Las Vegas Raiders. Raiders take on the Cleveland Browns, 1.9% roster across fantasy formats. And we get a home team in this one, 37.5%. For 37.5 point total is the lowest on the week. And look, no surprise here. Shedeur Sanders versus Geno Smith. It's a pretty rough quarterback matchup in this one. And Shedeur Sanders' first NFL start did not look great last week, but obviously keeping in mind that he didn't have time to prepare for that game. He was kind of thrown in middle of the game. And, a lot of fifth round quarterbacks are going to look pretty bad, thrown into a game and no time to prepare or start as a rookie. But keeping in mind, I'm also not that high on Shedeur Sanders being a very good NFL quarterback. I got to be honest with you. I think he could be a very good backup, but I'm not super high on him as an NFL starter. We'll see. This is his first opportunity to get a start, and I think the Raiders are going to be ready for him in this matchup. Raiders defense has been better over the last 3 weeks, 16th in EPA, and the real big test here for the Raiders defense is, can they stop the run with Quinshawn Judkins and force Shedeur Sanders to hold the football when he has to throw to get sacks and turnovers, right? And that'll be the biggest test here. The secondary for the Raiders is not very good. So Shedeur is going to get a lighter matchup versus the secondary, and maybe they try to exploit that. But what I know is Kevin Stefanski does not seem to have a lot of confidence in Shedeur Sanders, which makes me a little hesitant to think that they're just going to have Shedeur try to target the secondary, as even if it's a weakness, and try to exploit it, right? I just don't know that Stefanski has that kind of confidence in him, or else I think we would have saw Shedeur sooner than we are now in the NFL season. But when you think about this Browns team, they're giving up 42.5% pressure rate to the quarterback position. That's second in the NFL allowed on the season. And this is surprising for a Cleveland Browns offensive line that has been very good over the last couple of years, but they're getting older. And I think the quarterback play is definitely not helping that offensive line either. Sometimes sacks are a quarterback stat, not just an offensive line stat. But when we look at the offense for the Cleveland Browns, they're the worst in the NFL from an EPA standpoint over the last 3 weeks. I don't expect that to change this week with Shedeur Sanders under center. And I think the Raiders are a very good defense to take a shot on here. I think the floor should be good, and I think the ceiling could be pretty solid as well. Again, just 1.9% rostered across fantasy formats. Let's take a look at my second streamer on the week, and it's the Jacksonville Jaguars. And the Jacksonville Jaguars are very Atlanta Falcons-esque. 18.2% rostered across fantasy formats. We get an away team here, a 47.5 point total. And look, Jacksonville has had a lot of highs, they've had a lot of lows, but they're going up against Jacoby Brissett and the Cardinals, who, have been similar. A lot of highs, a lot of lows. And Jacoby Brissett just threw for 450 yards against a 49er secondary that is one of the worst in the NFL. And, while that maybe builds on some momentum, I trust that Trey McBride and Jacoby Brissett are going to be good, that connection, but I don't know about the rest. Now, Marvin Harrison, maybe he comes back in this one. DeMarcado is going to likely miss, so maybe just be Bam Knight again as a starter. I don't know if Trey Benson's coming back. We'll see. But ultimately, this is not a great offensive line. And Jacoby Brissett, prior to that 49ers game, was giving us a floor 3 weeks straight of 5 sacks. Now, he didn't get sacked at all against the 49ers, but they're also one of the worst pass rushes in the NFL. No Nick Bosa, Fred Warner is not there. They've been probably one of the most disappointing defenses for me this season. And when I look at the Jaguars, they have 2 sacks in 3 straight games. They're an opportunistic defense. They take some chances. That's why I think they're boom bust. But if they have to, if that offense can put up points and force Jacoby to throw, I think Jacoby can make some mistakes. Jaguars defense over, the last 3 weeks, 13th in EPA. So again, they've had some highs, they've had some lows, but they have been better over the last couple of weeks. And when you look at dropback EPA, they're a little bit below average, but when it comes to they're a little bit above average and a little bit above average on the rush EPA as well. So I like the Jaguars here. Again, they're kind of Atlanta Falcons-esque where, they've been very boom bust, and they're a very opportunistic defense. They like to cause turnovers. Jacoby turned the ball over twice when it comes to interceptions last week against the 49ers, and the 49ers gave up 450 yards and still mustered 6 fantasy points. They gave up 450 to Jacoby Brissett. So I don't expect the Jaguars defense to be as bad as that. We saw what they did to the Chargers. Now, granted, Chargers offensive line is pretty bad, but also keeping in mind the Chargers offense as a whole is much better than the Arizona Cardinals. And we saw Jaguars take care of business last week, though they were the home team and they were, Chargers were traveling. They will travel in this one. So again, boom bust for this play. My next play is another boom bust, but I think the ceiling is decently high, and it's the Vikings this week. And this may come as a surprise to some, but look, Vikings 24% rostered across fantasy formats right now. They are the away team in this one against the Packers, and it's a 40.3 or 40.5. I don't know why I keep messing up the point totals, but a 40.5 point total, which is the third lowest total on the week. Now, it is an away team, but it's a low point total. And when we think about this matchup, with Brian Flores and Jordan Love, that is the key here, right? It's Flores. Can he dial up the defense in this one? And I think he can. When you look at the last 4 matchups, they've played each other 4 times, Flores versus Jordan Love, since Flores has been with the Vikings, and it's pretty much been a 2-2 record, right? They've both gotten the best of each other. The best performance for Jordan Love came in Week 4 of 2024 when he had 384 yards, 4 touchdowns. He also threw 3 interceptions in that game. That was a wild game, if you remember that one. Then last year, the last time they met in Week 17, it was more a conservative game where Jordan Love had just 185, but no turnovers, right? In the beginning, Jordan Love in that first game where he had 389 yards, it was in Week 4. It was earlier on in the season. Now we're playing outdoors in Green Bay when it's a little bit colder of an environment. What does that offense look like? Possibly no Josh Jacobs, or I think I'm going to say Josh Jacobs is probably not playing. So it's probably going to be Emmanuel Wilson. And Emmanuel Wilson is not Josh Jacobs. He's been solid as a change of pace guy, but having him be the lead guy, I think they're going to have to throw the football more than they want. And you might say, well, Vikings defense, that's where you want to attack is the secondary. But over the last 3 weeks, success rate 16th when it comes to success rate from a drop back standpoint. So, the defense has tightened up a little bit. I don't think the secondary is as bad as people make it out to be. And something that we can live with, a middle of the pack success rate. The pressure rate is the big thing here for the Vikings defense right now. Second in pressure rate in the NFL with 41.3%. And with Brian Flores and Jordan Love's matchups, they're averaging 2 sacks per game against Jordan Love in those matchups, right? And at least 1 interception a game in those matchups. So we're getting a turnover and a floor of 2 sacks historically in those matchups, and they're banged up right now. They're missing Elton Jenkins, their starting left tackle, who is out and is going to miss time this year, and they're starting a 7th-round tackle in place of him. Brandon McManus probably not going to play this week. Their starting kicker. Are they going to have to go for it on 4th down? Or are they going to be able to kick field goals with whoever they end up having out there as their kicker? We'll see. Matthew Golden been in and out of the lineup. Are they going to get reinforcements? Is Jaden Reed going to come back this week? I don't know. Is Marshawn Lloyd going to come back this week? Who knows, right? Those guys have been trending towards coming back. Maybe they come back this week. Not sure. But I think the Vikings are an interesting play this week. I think the defense can get after the quarterback and cause Jordan Love some issues. And we know Jordan Love likes to take some chances, right, which can be good and bad, right? Good for us because it means more opportunities for interceptions, bad because he also might convert some of those big plays. And those big plays are what lead to very, very sharp drops in your total output for your defensive points. So we'll see how it shakes out. But let's go ahead and look at my defensive rankings here. And in the elite tier, I have the Seattle Seahawks at number 1. Seattle is going up against the Tennessee Titans. I don't have to talk too much about this, right? I mean, Seattle, I don't care that they're traveling on the road to Tennessee. The Titans show no signs of life right now. And I love Seattle's defense and how they're playing. So I have them here at number 1. Then I have the Baltimore Ravens here at number 2. I'm a little bit above consensus. Consensus has them at 3. I have them at 2. They go up against the New York Jets. And, New York Jets just announced Tyrod Taylor is the starting quarterback. I think that leads to more sacks and possibly more interceptions because, Tyrod's going to throw the ball and push the ball a little bit more downfield than what we've seen from Justin Fields and possibly take more sacks. Fields was getting a little bit better over the last couple of weeks at, escaping and not taking those sacks. But Tyrod probably takes more chances through the air, which we didn't see with Justin Fields nearly as much. Then I had the Cleveland Browns at 3. Consensus has them at 2. Browns are probably available in a lot of leagues, guys. They played the Ravens last week. They were probably dropped in many leagues. I think I saw they're available in about 50% of leagues. Obviously not didn't meet the criteria for a streamer, but they're going up against the Raiders who, Myles Garrett's been a one-man wrecking crew. This Raiders offensive line is very, very beat up right now. And so I expect Myles Garrett in this defense that's very good to give the Raiders some trouble. And it's a low point total this week. Then I had the Green Bay Packers here at number 4. They're going up against J.J. McCarthy, who, look, he's struggling right now. And, he's taking a lot of sacks. He's holding on to the football. And I expect the Packers to to come out ready to play in this one. It's going to be a cold environment. I don't think it's going to be high scoring, and I think they're a really, really strong play. These 4 are in the elite tier because to me, heading into this matchup, these feel rock solid. Of course, this is not going to be how the final 4 shake out. It never ends up being that way, and maybe it does, and that would be awesome. Then we go 1 for 4, with the exact order. That would be awesome, right? Then I'd have to go to the horse track and try to see if I can put some picks there for the order of how those horses finish because it's never going to be perfect, right? We know that. But I like those defenses a lot. This is the very good tier. We're going to spend a little more time here because it's a little bit of a bigger tier. We have the Detroit Lions here at number 5. They take on the New York Giants. Consensus has them at 5. I'm with consensus here. Detroit, they're back home, right? They're in warm weather. They're going to put up points against this Giants defense. And because they're going to put up points, they're going to have to force the Giants to put up points as well. And is it going to be Winston airing it out, right? Taking a bunch of chances? Or is it going to be Jackson Dart, right? Who knows? But I like the Lions a lot in this matchup. Then you have the New England Patriots who are playing like a top 5 unit in the NFL. Got to give them their flowers. This defense is awesome. They've been really, really good against the run. And I think that causes some issues for Chase Brown and no Jamar Chase, right? Jamar Chase is suspended for not being a decent human being and spitting on another player and Jalen Ramsey, and he gets suspended for a game. And that's going to cause Christian Gonzalez to shadow T. Higgins in this matchup. And, does Joe Flacco have to hold the ball on a little bit longer, which allows the pass rush to get there? We shall see. But I like them here at number 6. Then I have the Raiders here at 7. Consensus has them at 12. I have them at 7. Talked about the Raiders. Really, really like them in this matchup. Chicago Bears, I have at 8. Consensus has them at 13. I like the Bears there at home in this one. Aaron Rodgers looks like he's going to gut it out and play. But I think Bears been playing really, really good defensively, probably above expectations. They're getting healthy at the right time right now. And I think they're a really solid play against the Pittsburgh Steelers this week. Houston Texans, I have at 9. Consensus has them at 18. I just don't agree. Maybe I'm too high on them, but 18 is very, very low. And I don't expect them to finish 18. I mean, we're talking about a top 3 defense in the NFL. I don't care if it's Josh Allen. Like, this is defense does not have any holes. And And they're going to be at home in this one. Now it is a Thursday night football game, which is always sketchy. But when I watched that Buffalo game against the Bucks, I didn't sit there and say this offense for the Bills is unstoppable. Yes, Josh Allen had 6 touchdowns, but he had to run 3 of them in because the pass game is just not that good, right? I mean, Keon Coleman healthy scratch, right? No Dalton Kincaid. I don't think Kincaid's going to play this week as well on a short week. So we'll see. There's a chance that this gets that the Bills and the Texans slide down a little bit, but right now, as it stands today on Tuesday of this recording, I had them at 9. Then I had the Rams here at 10, and I'm a little bit below consensus here, not by much. Consensus has Rams at 9. I had them at 10. They're going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They're going to be at home, but I just don't feel like this is a plus matchup for me to put them much higher. But it's a really good defense against Baker Mayfield. But we'll see if they can get healthy with Bucky Irving. Is Chris Godwin going to come back? All things that have yet to be seen. And then I have the Buffalo Bills here at 11. Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills traveling to Houston. This defense for the Bills, they've again they were running hot and then now they ran cold, right? I mean, another weird defense, but they go up against the Texans. We don't know who the quarterback is going to be at the time of this recording. We will know probably by Wednesday, right? I mean, is CJ Stroud? We're going to get an update on him progressing through concussion protocol. Is it going to be Davis Mills? Is it going to be CJ Stroud? Not super sure, but we'll give an update to these rankings once we get that information. Then the risky but frisky tier. And this is a tier that starts off with the Atlanta Falcons. I am below consensus on the Falcons, right? The Falcons are at 7. I had them at 12. Look, the Falcons last week, they sold out against the run, and Bryce Young made them pay, right? The run defense with the Falcons, that was my biggest concern last week when I talked about them. The run defense, not very good, and they sold out against the run, but ultimately they sacrificed the pass defense, and Bryce Young, did a good job. He made them pay. And so I had the Falcons here. They're a boom bust team. Most of these teams are boom bust. Kansas City at 13. I'm considering dropping Kansas City down a little bit, but they've also really been good at limiting points against them. While they're not giving us a lot of sacks and turnovers, they're going to be at home, coming off of a tough loss, backs against the wall. Colts do have an extra week to prepare, but I think the floor is there for them. It's just the ceiling is not very high for Kansas City. So I have them there at 13. I talked about Jacksonville and Minnesota. Those are two streamers that we really like this week. Pittsburgh Steelers, maybe I'll put them up a little higher, but consensus has them at 8. I had them at 16. Steelers going up against Chicago. Chicago is just rolling right now with the momentum. I'm kind of buying into them a little bit more and more. Caleb Williams is not taking many sacks right now. I mean, he's been very, very hard to take down. He's been up and down a little bit, but he's growing and he's getting better. And that's going to be in Chicago. Then I have the Colts here at 17. Colts taking on Kansas City. That defense gets an extra week prepare. They are going on the road, but they are. This is a big game for both of these teams, right? And so I don't think it's going to be taken lightly. But Colts defense has been solid this year. Consensus has them at 22. I have them at 17. Arizona Cardinals, I have at 18. Consensus has them at 20. They're going up against Jacksonville. That's one of those frisky but risky teams where it's like, hey, you don't know what offense is going to show up for Jacksonville, right? So I'm curious to see what the injury report looks like for Arizona. 19 through 24, this is the hold your nose tier where we have some defenses that are interesting here. We'll go through it. The Eagles at 19, they go up against the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas is still a very hot offense. I know the Eagles have played better over the last couple of weeks. Fangio has them looking good, especially with the acquisitions at the deadline, but I had them at 19. The Saints at 20, I wanted to have the Saints higher. I had them one spot below consensus. I wanted to have them higher, man. I really considered having them as a streamer this week, but I decided not to. They're just not generating a lot of pressure. I know it's Kirk Cousins and they are at home with extra time to prepare, but I just couldn't put the Saints higher. I wanted to, but I just couldn't. Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 21. And they're going up against the Rams. I mean, I don't know how you would be starting the Bucks against the Rams defense. Then you have the Dallas Cowboys here at 22. They go up against the Eagles. That defense is looking better and better with some of those acquisitions. So we'll see if they can continue with that. Then I have the San Francisco 49ers here at 23. Consensus has them at 15. I just can't trust the 49ers after what I saw last week. They're not generating pressure. Their secondary is atrocious. I get it's Bryce Young and the Panthers, and they're not going to do what they did against the Falcons Falcons every single week, but I just have no faith in the 49ers, man. I mean, this is just really, really tough to see because I like them, but the injuries have just really caught up to them, and they're just not playing well. They're not tackling. They're just uninspiring right now. Then I have the Tennessee Titans at 24. If you start the Tennessee Titans, good luck. I mean, that's just absolutely terrible, and I feel bad for you. But that's kind of where we're at. And that's gonna do it for me, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for your support. Hopefully, we can keep this momentum going. I know it's been kind of a little bit of an up and down couple weeks. We started the season off red hot for like 7, 8 weeks, and then we've kind of simmered down a little bit, but we're still fighting. We're still fighting. It's been a weird last couple weeks in the NFL. I'm doing my best to make sure I put you in a good position. Make sure you hit that like button, you subscribe, you comment. Let me know any questions you might have, and I'll see you guys